What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will continue Chapter 6, Volume 7 of the light novel, entitled Gods and Demon Lords. This video is the 5th part of Chapter 6 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. Now it made sense to Saare that a demon who had lived for millennia and become a demon lord class presence, like Diablo mentioned, could evolve into a demon peer via some kind of trigger. Of course, that evolution would boost his force to such dizzying levels. The Red's magical count had ballooned to several times that of a regular archdemon, and he had all those extra years of experience too. Truly, there was no limit to his strength. The demon hunter's leader, who was warily eyeing these events, had fallen unconscious the moment he heard the words demon peer. The leader was overcome not with fear, but with relief. What if he had actually fought that demon? That was too much to even consider, and the joy the leader felt avoiding that fate literally knocked him unconscious. Nobody could blame the guy. Even Saare was taken by an all-encompassing desire to run away. And the scariest part was that some fool out there was insane enough to give such a rare archdemon a name. He wondered what in the name of Luminous Rimuru could have possibly been thinking. Saare could feel a cold sweat erupt from every pore in his body. His instincts were sounding the alarm bells, and the easygoing attitude of a moment ago was now barely a passing memory. Saare knew how impossible this was. If Diablo had given his name without hesitation like that, it meant there really was someone out there who had granted it to him. A masterless named creature would never be so eager to share his name, since it would expose him to falling under the control of someone else. It proved that the Demon Lord Rimuru was really behind this. But Saare wondered if Rimuru, freshly ordained as a Demon Lord, could even have the energy needed to name an archdemon. There wasn't much point pondering that question, but Saare couldn't help but wonder. His mind was just attempting to escape reality at this point. Then Saare felt something in motion next to him. Glenda asked him what he was hesitating for, and she told Saare to let both of them take out that sexy-looking demon together. Glenda was virtually screaming at him. Saare told her to stop and wait, but he was already too late to stop her. Like the wind, Glenda strode forth, sneaking up to Diablo without a sound, and thrusting her black-bladed knife at him. The knife plunged straight into Diablo's undefended heart. Glenda laughed because she could tell that hit home. But sadly, Diablo had no intention of dodging that from the start. Diablo laughed back and said that was some commendable physical ability, but flatly stated that unfortunately, physical attacks didn't work on him. That was the truth, and Diablo had acquired a trait known as Cancel Melee Attack. Glenda quickly leapt back a safe distance. She ignored Saare's warning and then launched a barrage of quick attacks. Even Glenda could tell that Diablo was a formidable foe. She no longer openly berated him like before, and she was treating this like a battle against a full-bore demon lord. But it was all mere sport to Diablo. He was in a realm of his own, power-wise, and nothing Glenda busted out could ever affect him. Now Glenda realized this, or to be exact, she had sensed as much from the start. Glenda's real goals lay elsewhere. Saare had resigned to his fate and steeled himself. Since he was unable to abandon Glenda, Saare joined the battle. He unleashed his spiritual force and boosted his physical skills to the max. Saare wielded the Demon Slayer, a unique weapon obtained through massive amounts of capital. He slashed at Diablo, but it didn't work. Saare was frustrated that slashes didn't work on Diablo. He asked Glenda to buy him some time so he could unleash his holy magic. Saare reasoned that only his strongest magic would knock this menace out, so Saare asked Glenda for a hand. But Glenda had no response, so Diablo spoke in her place. Diablo told Saare that he believed his female companion had just fled. Saare had trouble understanding this at first. He couldn't believe his ears. So he turned around, but Saare couldn't find Glenda there. Diablo was right. Glenda had fled the scene long ago. Damn her. Saare screamed at the top of his lungs, but it didn't accomplish much. Glenda decided unilaterally to start this battle, and then she left Saare to deal with the fallout. It enraged Saare, but Diablo was right there, sporting his evil grin. It was time for Saare to worry about his own hide, not hers. Saare said to himself that he could fight and he had to do this. Saare had to keep the fight going until Grigori returned. Since Saare's hopes now were pinned on his other stalwart companion, he roused his spirit. Grigori had gone to the city to lure the demon over to him. Their target was right here, and thus he should be back shortly. Saare believed in this, so he plunged himself into this desperate battle. After all, his fleeing wish never had any hope of coming true. As Saare faced these insurmountable odds, Grigori of the three battle sages was in a desperate situation of his own. There, as Grigori ran across the battlefield, he was greeted by a calamity from the skies. It was the mercenary force Yom had brought on. The mercenary force was seemingly fighting to protect the city gate. They were doing what seemed to be a fine job, fending off FARMUS' vanguard force. This wasn't the prey Grigori was supposed to be targeting. Grigori had no interest in FARMUS' internal strife. It had nothing to do with him. He was only after the demon who killed Archbishop Rahim. And Grigori's intelligence stated that the demon would be found working undercover in this town. Grigori had thought that King Edward had been accompanied by those specialists from the east when he had seen him. Unless those specialists run off on the demon, Grigori doubted that he would have much work to do. But now he was faced with a much more present threat than a demon. It was a gigantic, fearsome wolf in his way. The wolf, of course, was Ranga, wagging his tail with glee as he sprinted across the heavens. Ranga was light as a feather, and now his feet weren't kicking against the ground at all. This was skywalk, a technique that only a small handful of magical beasts could hope to learn, and he had acquired it all too naturally. To Ranga, however, this was a trivial detail. The waves of power released from his body were bringing him pure joy as he whirled around, feeling himself fill up with magical energy. His legs, covered in jet black fur, were crackling with gold-colored lightning, and his aura was releasing electricity into the air, whether Ranga meant to or not. It was being controlled by the shining gold horns on his head, radiating a force like a crown, even as the lightning-infused fur shone black like a robe of darkness. Ranga was the king of wolves, and now he had every bit of the majesty that title entailed. Now Ranga approached the speed of sound in the air as he instantly sighted the group Diablo tipped him off about. Another moment, and Ranga was back on solid ground, right in front of Grigori. Accompanying Grigori was a small handful of the rebellious Imperial Guard. The other 5,000 with them were the second wave of FARMUS Knights sent by Edward as reinforcements. Gaston, one of the FARMUS generals and an experienced member of the nobility, nervously approached Grigori to ask for orders. All of FARMUS's top-notch knights were long gone, erased from the world during the previous attempt to invade Tempest. What remained were the Olsorens, the fighters whose skills and brain power weren't enough to join in last time. None of them could think for themselves. They relied fully on Grigori, this wonder child from exotic lands, without even the slightest sense of shame. Grigori ordered General Gaston to tackle the forces lagging behind them. Gaston had seen these forces advancing from the ground and the sky. The observation made Gaston come to his senses. Gaston responded very well and asked Grigori what about him. Grigori replied that he had to take that guy on. He asked both Python and Garcia to join. Join Gaston and keep him guarded was what Grigori wanted to say, but he was interrupted by a dark gale force wind rushing by. Grigori was shocked at a speed that only Grigori could react to. Ranga charged right into the forces Gaston led. Damn it, that stupid dog. Grigori shouted and thrust his halberd forward with all his might. Ranga easily leapt out of harm's way, then began exercising free rein to wreck the whole troop. Ranga leapt up and down. He kept attacking and attacking, piling up the casualties. Neither Python nor Garcia, nor all of their many companions could avoid the feast of violence that sent them all crashing to the ground. And before long, those fangs were being bared at Grigori himself. Gobta and Gabble were chasing Ranga as fast as they could. They complained that Ranga was too fast. They feared that there would be no assignments left for them at the end of the battle. Sokka interjected that they should stop whining and continue the chase. They were all bickering at one another, just like usual. But everyone knew they were good friends. Only the three of them thought they were hiding it. They bellowed that they got it. Gobta triggered Shadow Motion, accompanied by 100 of his Goblin riders. Gabble flew ahead, 100 members of Team Hiryu joining him. Sokka, meanwhile, returned to Hakuro to give the field commander his report. Gobta was the first person on the battlefield, and he was greeted by the sight of heaps of soldiers lying in what felt like a single spot. The knights still in the fray were in a loose circle around Ranga. They kept a prudent distance and prayed that Grigori could defeat this beast. The downed knights were all the talented ones, or at least those courageous enough to engage Ranga and keep Grigori guarded. They paid for that dearly, and all were gathered together in a heap because Ranga was using his front paws to toss them over there, ensuring he didn't accidentally trample them to death. The faces of all the praying knights were strained with despair. Their cheers, loud and enthusiastic at first, were now replaced with stony silence. Grigori was already covered from head to toe in wounds. Victory at this point would be a dream wrapped within a dream. Even with Impervious, the steel-like protection covering Grigori, in Ranga's eye, Grigori was just a slightly tougher chew toy than usual. The fact that Grigori couldn't be knocked out simply meant that he had to endure the pain that much longer. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura's spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Joji Ray, Rival Sakiln, Venom Legend, Amiral Tempest, Rajveer Thakur, Kwan Shuan, Jan Lester, Rainier Fernandez, Spandan Patra, and last but not the least, shout out to Not Minecraft Java. I'll see you guys in the next video.